A Beacon in the Dark by No Haijiaki. The Hurdles of Teaching.
Aizawa, you can't be serious. What, Mr. I cough blood, you scared I might take away your trophy as the most irresponsible teacher of the school?
He replies, turning around. Toshinori deadpans at him.
Very funny. You should be resting. I'm sure Principal Nezu will find a substitute for you. Nonsense. I'm okay. You look like a mummy. And you look like a strong wind might knock you over. As I said, I'm okay.
He ignores Toshinori's sigh.
How are the students holding up? As far as I could tell, hearing from their parents, far better than we thought. Class A is very tough.
Aizawa sniffs.
They told me what your golden boy did. Stubborn brat, that one, refusing to leave me behind.
He shakes his head with a sigh.
It's a miracle you made it out alive. You better craft some common sense in that rock-hard head of his, Toshinori, or he's gonna get himself killed before you can pass it down to him one for all.
Toshinori coughs.
Yeah, about that.
Hadn't Aizawa's face been covered in bandages, the squint would probably have been more effective.
What? Well...
Izuku immediately realized something had changed deeply in him upon arriving at UA. I mean, besides the obvious. It was still hard to believe that All Might asked him, of all people, to inherit his powers, but the energy he felt running through his veins assured him it was not a dream that morning. He noticed immediately that he felt All Might's presence stronger than anyone else's. If he had to find a way to explain the feeling, it was as if they were two chimes responding to one another with vibrations. It felt as if All Might was near him, walking with him, and the man was literally on the other side of the school at the moment. Izuku sighed, carding a hand through his hair. This was something that he needed to discuss with him at the first occasion, for sure. Midoriya! Ida's voice jolted him out of his thoughts, and he stopped, letting his classmate catch up to him. Good morning! He smiled when Ida's light was just at his side. I'm glad to see you are well. Ida says, sincere passion in his voice. How's your arm? Oh, this, he says, tugging at the cast. I was just about to go to Recovery Girl to take it off. Oh, that's why you arrived so early this morning, Ida says before humming. Do you want me to walk you there? Sure, Izuku replies, eager to spend some time with his friend. They walk toward the infirmary, chatting. Izuku is surprised to notice how much he missed Ida, despite the fact they had not seen each other for just a day. But then again, that is not surprising at all. Ida and Uraraka, and all their classmates, they were deeply dear to his heart now. He'd protect them. He'd protect them all. They were still chatting animatedly about the hero news of the morning, Izuku leaning on Ida's desk with both his arms finally free, when the door opened. Ow! Uraraka says, hesitating on the doorway. Izuku blinks, noticing her light shift in embarrassment. Good morning. Good morning, Uraraka. Ida replies in his usual serious tone. How are you feeling? I'm fine, she says, surpassing them to put her bag down at her desk right behind Ida's before turning to them. You both okay? At the USJ. It was quite something, huh? Call it something. Izuku chuckled out, scratching the back of his head. But I'm fine. Recover Girl patched me up. Great, see? He adds, rotating his left arm while pointing at it with his right hand. Uraraka shifted closer to him, her fingers ghosting on his cheek. You have a scar under your eye, she says quietly. Suddenly, Izuku is painfully, rudely reminded of the fact that she called him Izuku at the USJ and blushes furiously. It's nothing, he stammers, just as Uraraka also tenses, probably remembering the same thing. Thankfully, Ida's obliviousness comes to the save. I'm truly glad to see you are both healthy. That was quite the worrying ordeal. He sniffs. I was really scared I couldn't make it in time. They both turn to Ida, assuring him he did a marvelous job at saving the day, and that they were fine and dandy. Soon the rest of the class started to trickle in, exchanging greetings, patting Izuku on the shoulder with some, Hey Midoriya, and I'm glad you're okay, and all the embarrassment got shuffled away in the back of his mind. Aizawa, eyed the boy from behind his bandages. He didn't seem different at all. Very focused, always taking notes, typing away at his braille keyboard, as he usually did. He definitely had something to show for the fight that happened at the USJ, though, going by the little scar under his right eye. Not much different from the one Aizawa himself gained. Aizawa definitely needed to have a serious chat with him regarding the whole incident, on top of Toshinori going ahead with his own decisions and unleashing one for all on him. For now, though, he had another pressing matter that regarded the entire class.
Don't worry about me now,
he replies when Uraraka expressed concern for his state.
you have other things to think about. After all, the sports festival is approaching.
After all the explanations necessary regarding the festival, Aizawa made his way out, stopping on the doorway.
Midoriya, come with me.
The boy snapped out of his seat like a spring, a tense expression on his face. He meekly followed, taking place at his side as they crossed President Mike on the way out.
Yamada, I need to borrow the boy for a minute.
No problem, my dude! Don't take too long, though, okay? They walked in silence, not far from the glass.
Midoriya, are we alone?
The boy blinked, taking a moment to focus. Yes.
Okay, let me know right away if someone is approaching.
S.I.
Listen.
Sensei, if this is about the USJ, I'm sorry, I know I should have ran when you told me to, but He fell silent when Aizawa held his hand up.
Yes, about the USJ. Let's make something clear. If I give you an order, I expect you to follow it from now on. Understood?
A contrite expression on his face, Midoriya nods.
Another thing.
Aizawa continues.
I have to say your quirk could have really helped us all avoid all of that, and we came really close to. We were unlucky that man Kurogiri was listening. If it hadn't been for that, we might have evacuated all of you in time.
Midoriya blinks. What do you mean, sir?
I mean that from now on, we will adopt precautions.
Aizawa replies, a hand on his chin.
I don't expect you to be able to count everyone in this school on the top of your head, but I want you to come to me right away if you think something is not right, or to the closest teacher available, if I'm not there. I will speak to them about this.
Of course, Midoriya replies, thoughtful. I hadn't thought of that. It might be helpful to also let me know how many people are expected to be there in future similar situations. That way I should be able to spot any outlier as soon as possible.
Now we are thinking in the same way, you little squirt.
Aizawa replies, the boy smiling a bit. Okay, Sensei, I got it. And I'm sorry still for what happened.
Let's put that aside. I think you've learned your lesson.
Aizawa interrupts.
There was something else I wanted to speak to you about. Have you already tried to use one for all?
The boy jumped in his skin so hard, Aizawa wouldn't be surprised had he reached the ceiling. You know? He asks, eyes wide.
We teachers and Principal Nezu are all informed regarding Toshinori's situation and the decision he has come to.
The boy sighs, relieved, a hand on his chest. Sensei, please next time maybe start with that. I think I'm having a heart attack, he says, voice trembling. He coughs, composing himself back. I haven't tried yet. I only got it yesterday evening, after all. Aizawa sighs. It's only a couple of weeks before the sports festival would start, and this poor boy has to deal with a whole new power on top of it all. Goddamn Toshinori and his goddamn spontaneous decisions.
I think you'll need to practice as much as you can, Midoriya. I will speak with that blonde disgrace you call teacher about it. For now, you are dismissed. Go back to class before Yamada comes out and destroys my eardrums.
That got a surprised giggle snort out of Midoriya. Alright, Sensei, see you later. He watched the boy trot back to class, putting his hand in his pockets. There was a lot of work to do. Back at his desk, Izuku melted on it with a sigh. Aizawa Sensei certainly gave him a lot to think about. He hadn't really thought much about what his quirk could mean in situations like the USJ. At the moment, it had been natural for him to point out the weirdness. But that only happened because Aizawa-sensei already told them how many people were supposed to be there in the first place. If Aizawa-sensei hadn't done that, Izuku didn't even want to think about how things could have gone. But he was right. His quirk could be extremely helpful in spotting dangers before they had the chance to become so. He absolutely needed to keep that in mind and to keep his attention up. Also, it was consoling to discover the teachers were all aware of his new situation, but Aizawa-sensei was right about that too. He needed to practice.
Midoriya,
Came Minata's whisper from behind him.
are you okay?
I'm fine, he whispered back, turning around with a little smile. Did I miss something important?
I don't think so, but I'll give you my notes later if you want them.
He nodded, grateful, before forcing himself to pay attention to the lesson. So many things to do. Okay, but like, real talk, Kirishima said right as their break started, sitting on Izuku's desk. Midoriya, you gotta tell me how your quirk works. Huh? Izuku replied very intelligently.
Dude, that whole bit at the USJ? That was insanely cool!
Kirishima explained, pumping his fist the way he did when he was excited.
When he said he saw all those people and Aizawa-sensei yelled at us to get back, I got a chill running down my spine, man. That was crazy!
And that Kacchan turned around. Izuku was sure he was trying to dig a hole in him with his eyes. He wasn't the only one interested, Yaoyorozu approaching him from behind. I also would like to know, if you don't mind, Midoriya, she says, collected. It was unfortunate that one of them was listening. That could have saved us all a lot of grief. I feel like your quirk could have a lot of very useful uses.
And also, the way you kept finding Aizawa-sensei over and over again during that test on the first day, you can't blame us for being curious, dude.
Kaminari interjects, and soon enough, pretty much the entire class collected around him waiting. Well... He hesitates, embarrassed. It's a bit hard to explain, but... Okay, imagine every living thing has a light, and every light is unique to the individual that possesses it. I can sense these lights at all times, no matter what kind of physical obstacle there is between me and other people. It's like a radar, basically. A chorus of understanding "ooh" followed. Yaoyorozu hums before asking, "Can you also sense inanimate objects? How far can you go?" I can feel not biological matter in a way. It's like it reflects the light emitted by the living beings around it, so I have a general idea of where everything is. And for the moment, I'm capable of sensing for what I think is about a 300 meters radius. Although, if I really focus, I can expand it. My head doesn't agree with that very much, though.
That definitely explains a lot. Ojiro interjects in a pensive voice. Can you also see videos? And other things like that?
Izuku shakes his head. Video registrations don't mean anything to me. All I see is the outline of the monitor and nothing else. I need actual living things around me to make sense of stuff. I also still can't read or actually see how you all look like or do anything that requires sight. By all means, I'm still blind. I just perceive things differently.
The atmosphere rapidly changes, turning a bit heavier after that. Taku. Izuku jumps at Kacchan's quiet voice. For how long have you been able to do that?
10 months, give or take,
he replies, cautious. Kacchan only grunts, his voice and his light unreadable as usual.
Wait, you only discovered your quirk 10 months ago?
Uraraka asks, surprised.
Yeah, funny that. It was a stroke of luck, really.
Wait a sec. Sarah pipes up, slightly perplexed. Does this mean you can feel every single person around you for 300 meters?
Yeah, that's what I said.
How can you even think? Izuku let out a surprised laugh at that, rapidly followed by the rest of the class, the atmosphere turning much lighter. So this means you've lived pretty much all your life blind? Ida says, not quite a question. They are on their way to the cafeteria for lunch, the two of them and Uraraka. They were rapidly becoming inseparable. Ida! Uraraka says, sounding worried.
That's a bit blunt, isn't it? Well, it's the truth,
Izuku replies before Ida can start apologizing.
I'm not offended, really.
Ida let out a little relieved sigh before saying pensively, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Huh? People don't become as driven and resourceful as you are by living a pampered life, he continues. You must have overcome a lot of hurdles.
Izuku's feet stops before he can realize they did.
Was that not okay?
Ida asks unsure, turning around to face him. No, that was quite touching, actually. Izuku replies, voice low, shuffling his foot nervously. Thank you, Ida. A warm hand on his shoulder. Gentle. Izuku shakes his head, chasing away the sting in his nose. Anyway, the sports festival, huh? He says, cheering the atmosphere a bit. Sounds exciting. Something weird happens when he says that. Uraraka's light from fondness, she's fond of him, turns into a burning ball of ambitions. The sports festival, she exclaims. Let's give it all, boys. Both he and Ida blink, their mouths hanging open. Uraraka? That's how he discovers Uraraka's reasons for wanting to be a hero. You must think that's selfish, she says, embarrassed as they wait in line outside the cafeteria, but Izuku shakes his head. Not at all. I think it's very nice of you, actually, to want to give back to your parents. You shouldn't feel bad about that at all.
I agree with Midoriya. Wanting to give your family a more comfortable life is as good as a reason as any other, Ida says, nodding. I'm sure your parents must be proud of you. You guys, she mutters, hiding her face into her hands. Izuku grins, happy, and then he feels the little ring of the chimes, as he'd already started to call this new feeling, go stronger. Unsurprisingly, All Might pops out from behind the corner, asking him to share lunch with him, making Uraraka giggle, snort something about him sounding like a skullgirl. He bids his farewell to his classmates, following behind All Might, just catching a last glimpse of Ida and Uraraka's discussion. I wonder if All Might is gonna scold him, since he jumped in during that fight. Very likely. Aizawa-sensei probably did the same thing this morning. All Might seems very interested in Midoriya, don't you think? Izuku has the distinct impression someone is staring at him too, but it's hard to say with all the crowd. He follows All Might. After the boy sits down in front of him, he immediately asks, Do you feel it too? Toshinori blinks, not quite sure how to interpret the question.
I don't know what you mean,
he replies, honest. Young Midoriya sighs. That's what I thought, he says. It might be a side effect of my original quirk. Toshinori starts to pour tea for the both of them, waiting for more. It's like, since One For All activated, it's like I can feel you all the time. Toshinori blinks. Imagine two chimes going back and forth, the boy explains, his hands waving in front of him. That's how it feels. This morning when I arrived, I could feel you as if you were standing right by me, even if you were barely in range of my radar. It only stopped once you got out of it and started as soon as you were back. It's very hard to explain. He was starting to mumble.
I think your guess of this effect being caused by your quirk is about right,
Toshinori says, taking a sip.
Is it very distracting?
Not at all, actually. It feels very natural. The boy frowns. Also, it felt much stronger earlier when you approached with your All Might form. It was as if the energy of your One For All was trying to wake the energy of mine. It's very hard to put into words.
I think you explained yourself quite well, all things considered. This is a curious side effect indeed.
Toshinori considers, surprise in his voice.
I'm at least glad that it's not distracting for you, as that could have been a real problem. What a situation.
Well, let's put this on the ever-growing list of surprises in my life, I guess. Young Midoriya chuckles, picking up his part of the food. Anyway, I guess you wanted to tell me something?
Toshinori coughs. Actually, yes. I spoke with Aizawa.
There's a sardonic smile on the boy's face, as if he knows exactly the choice of words Aizawa had for him. And?
He has been so kind as to point out to me some glaring issues in our current situation.
Toshinori elaborates, much more polite than Aizawa had been to him.
And I found myself agreeing with him. So, I know I ask much of you, my boy, and I hope you will forgive me for this, but I was wondering if you'd be able to stay after school for a few days, and let us help you try to gain at least a bit of control over One for All before the sports festival.
Are you kidding? Of course I'd like to stay! The boy replies immediately, full of enthusiasm. To be 15 years old again.
I'm glad to hear it. I will speak with your mother about it in the afternoon. Hopefully, she will give us permission to start right away.
In goes long sigh, almost perforates Toshinori's eardrum through the phone. You were a terrible, terrible man, mister, she says, not a trace of venom in her voice. I better get my son back all in one piece after these extra sessions, you hear?
Yes, ma'am.
He dutifully replies, resisting the temptation to make a little salute. Young Midoriya tries his damn best to try to put Toshinori in trouble right away when he tried to throw a punch with One for All activated and proceeded to break his arm at 3 different places. Fortunately, Recovery Girl was able to patch him up right away, not without giving him a piece of her mind loudly and lengths. This will be the last time. The next you will need to wait longer for your wounds to heal, young man, she said as she pushed them out of her infirmary. I can't be putting this much stress on your body all the time, alright? She slammed the door behind them, young Midoriya scratching embarrassed to the back of his head. I'm sorry, he muttered before turning his face up to him. Are you thinking about something?
Yes,
Toshinori exhaled.
all the women I meet are very fearsome, and I'm scared for my life.
That got a laugh out of young Midoriya, at least.
Okay, clearly this isn't working, so I'll take it from here.
Aizawa said once they'd returned to the training room with Midoriya's arm in one piece again. Clench your butt and scream from the bottom of your heart. I don't even know where you get this stuff from, he added in a desperate sigh, pinching the bridge of his nose.
That's how it works for me, though,
Toshinori replies weakly. Midoriya, how it felt when you activated One for All? Aizawa asks, ignoring him. The boy puts a hand under his chin, frowning. Weird, he finally says after a few seconds. I could feel the energy in my arm and it was very hard to control, like it didn't belong to me.
which is obvious by the end result.
Aizawa finishes for him.
This is what we have to work at. Your original quirk. Has it ever felt the same way? From my understanding, you are also capable of turning it on and off at will, right?
No, it never felt like that. Young Midoriya blinks, like he realized something. I can control it just fine with very little effort unless I need to focus and to widen my radius. But even then, it feels natural. Nothing like One for All.
Well, this is it then.
Aizawa says, rolling a long plastic stick, one of those used to point something on a blackboard, in his hands. We will need to make One for All feel natural for you, part of you. This way, you should be able to control it without breaking every single bone in your body. But how do we do that? The boy replies, frowning. I don't even know where to start. That's where this airhead should step in and think of something. Aizawa says, hitting Toshinori on the head with the stick. At least that answers his unasked question of what he needed the stick for.
Any suggestion, big guy?
Toshinori sighs.
You're a much better teacher than me, Aizawa,
he says, sounding regretful.
You immediately went for the root of the problem. Had this been up to me alone, I'd have no idea where to start myself.
That's why I offered in the first place. Twack, twack goes the stick. Now put that brain to good use and think. I'll keep Midoriya busy with something that won't destroy his body in the meantime. Toshinori spent the rest of the time they were allowed sitting with his back against the wall, trying to think on how to help young Midoriya gain better control over One for All. As he observed he and Aizawa going through a routine of slow movements, the boy keeping One for All activated in his various limbs as much as possible. At the end of the evening, he didn't have much to show, but at least the boy didn't break any more bones. As it has happened often already, it's young Midoriya himself that finally comes to his aid. Their second day hadn't gone much better. Toshinori tried to give him some suggestions, but none seemed to work. They didn't push it too much, trying to avoid more bone shattering. At the start of their third day of extracurricular activities, Midoriya entered the room with a pensive expression. "I think I might have an idea," he said. But upon he and Aizawa inviting him to go on, he hesitated. I might be wasting your time with this," the boy says, frowning. "I mean, literally wasting your time."
What do you mean?
Toshinori blinks. "Can you transform? Just for a bit. I need to confirm something." Toshinori had exchanged a look with Aizawa, who shrugged. He complies with the boy's suggestion, watching him close his eyes and take a deep breath. The boy stayed like this, silent, for what felt like an eternity, before slowly opening his eyes. "I think this might be it," he murmurs.
Care to enlighten us?
Aizawa asks, tilting an eyebrow. Rapidly, young Midoriya brought Aizawa up to speed with a little side effect that had presented itself once One for All had activated for him.
You told me you felt it stronger when I was transformed.
Toshinori intervenes, the dots connecting in his mind.
You said that you felt as if my One for All was trying to activate yours.
Midoriya nodded, a smile appearing on his face. "I think if I can concentrate on that feeling, on how natural it feels for you, maybe everything will click," he says, clearly trying to rein in his enthusiasm. "I'm sorry for having to ask such a selfish thing, but this is the best shot I can give, I think."
Say no more, my boy. This seems like a good solution. Let's do it.
Aizawa is silent, looking at the both of them. Then his eyes set on Toshinori, squinting.
And you didn't think to use that in the first place?
A sigh.
What would you even do without us? Probably not much,
Toshinori admits good-naturedly. They go with that in the end. Toshinori's time is very limited, but he pushes it a bit. Aizawa is keeping a close eye on the both of them. He doesn't want Toshinori to go overboard, ready to activate his quirk on him when he noticed something amiss. Wanting to give Midoriya a chance to figure things out is all fine and dandy, but it shouldn't come to the detriment of his own health. Also, Aizawa knows Midoriya would never forgive himself if he ended up the reason of Toshinori possibly losing even more time. The teenage angst would know no bound. Speaking of which, Midoriya has spent a long time simply sitting in front of Toshinori, his eyes closed, clearly very focused. Neither of them dared speak a single word, not wanting to break the boy's concentration. He suddenly opens his eyes and jumps up, stretching his arms. "Okay," he says, huffing. "I think I got it." And with that, a series of literal lightnings seem to go through his body as the boy tightens his fist, gritting his teeth with a grunt.
"Oh," Toshinori says, smiling. "Yes, perfect, just like that."
The boy is shivering, sweat collecting in beads on his skin. His eyes twitch before he releases, panting, the light that surrounded his body disappearing. He leans down a bit, putting his hands on his knees as he catches his breath. "That's very hard," he pants. Aizawa pats his back with a grin.
"Step one, kiddo," he says. "Now we know where to start."
They hadn't done very much progresses in Izuku's mind, but when he expressed the thought to All Might, the man admonished him.
If you ask someone that has never jogged in their life to run a 10 kilometers marathon, how do you think they're going to do?
He replied,
Don't be so hard on yourself. You've done a lot already. It's regrettable that we didn't have more time to prepare before the festival, but you've already made a lot of progress if you ask me. From how little you think it is, progress is still progress.
Izuku accepted the compliments, silent. They were standing in the backstage of the stadium where the sports festival would take place, All Might wanting to give some last words before he would join the rest of the class in the waiting room.
Young Midoriya, I want you to go out there and tell the world that you have arrived,
All Might says, putting a hand on his shoulder. Tell the world?
Yes. Show everyone what you are made of. Always go for the highest point, never for second best. That's what will make the difference between victory and defeat.
All Might added before saying in a lower voice,
Also, please try to not overdo it with One for All for now, okay?
That's That seems kind of countering the whole show the world thing, don't you think? Izuku laughed, unable to help himself.
I guess you are right.
All Might had conceded, amused.
But if you break something, your mother will skin me alive, and kind of like my skin where it is.
Izuku let out another long laugh, holding his belly. Then, once in the waiting room, Todoroki thrown him the gauntlet, and well, All Might told him to never go for second best, hadn't he?